Welcome to Impact Farming, where we introduce you to the people and ideas that will have a massive impact on your farming operation. Brought to you by Farm Marketer. Sit down, start the engine, and let's roll with today's show.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Impact Farming Show. Today, we are going to be discussing the top 10 transition planning mistakes that farm families make. Are you excited? I'm excited. So let's do this. I have been running the Impact Farming Show for 7 years. We're in season 7, and I have interviewed the brightest minds about succession, transition planning, and I have really learned a lot. I've recently dove in and read a lot of transition planning books, and while there is a lot of information and a lot of different types of farms, sizes, types, the common mistakes that are made when it comes to transition planning are exactly that. They're pretty common. No matter how different our farming operations are, we are farms and we are family and we are in business together. So I wanted to take the best nuggets, the top 10 mistakes from all these episodes. Not only that, from conversations that I've had with farm families when I've been on the road, and also just from experience and from seeing friends, family in the communities around us that go through transition planning. So the top 10 transition planning mistakes. I'm excited for this. But before we dive in, two quick things. If you didn't catch last week's episode, I started this series of solo episodes with last week's segment. And in that one, I talked about the top 5 reasons that farm founders stall. Why do farm founders ignore the conversation, stall, downright procrastinate when it comes to it? There's 5 common reasons, and you might want to check those out because if you are the second generation, you'll want to get an insight into farm founders and their fears and concerns. If you are another farm founder and you know you need to have the transition planning conversation, you'll want to listen to that episode because you'll take away that you are not alone. Your fears and concerns are the same as farm founders from across Canada, North America, around the world, big farms, small farms, cattle farms, grain farms. We are family farms trying to do business and family together. So check that one out. That's item number 1. Item number 2, if you enjoy this show, you're interested in farm business, transition planning, can you do me a favor? Like this episode if you're on YouTube and subscribe. If you're on podcast, rate and review. Our show grows by the feedback, the comments, the algorithm of the platforms. And the more our audience engages, one lets me know that you guys are loving the episodes and gives me feedback on where you want to go with future segments. Who do you want me to interview? What's on your mind? So if you can rate and review, leave a comment, that really helps me a lot and helps our show grow. Okay, let's get into it. The top 10 transition planning mistakes. Number 1 is the obvious, not starting the conversation. And this is the big one. If we ignore it, nothing's going to happen, right? And communication is so important in a business, let alone a family business, because we're not only trying to operate a farming operation that has a lot of challenges and wins, concerns, demands. When you throw in family on top of the business pressures and roles, it is extra challenging. So here's the thing, and some of the feedback that I have received from the experts that work with farm founders, the coaches. Here's some things I've heard from farm families on the road, from the next generation, the founders. I hear it all. So let's talk about that. Why do we not start the conversation? If we're farm founders, we have a set of reasons. And if we are the second generation that want to take over the farm, we have a set of reasons. So I'm really going to get into it as a neutral third party and share everything that I've heard from all these guests, the authors, and the people I know talking about their farm transition concerns. So why does farm founder dad not want to talk about it? And I'm going to do a disclaimer here in the apologetics. I'm going to be stereotypical because a lot of the farms that are transitioning out and the next generation coming in are fairly stereotypical still. So if I say farm founder dad in the traditional role and farm founder mom in this role, and it doesn't apply to your operation, just ignore it. The different generations are different, and different farm families have different dynamics, right? So I can't possibly address every single situation. So I want to say that I'm going to do stereotypical. If it applies, go with it. If not, carry on with your version of your farm family operation. So, farm founder dad, why does he not want to start the conversation? We'll assume he's the farmer, the main farmer, the farmer on the operation. Well, one, he's busy. He's concerned about the animals. He's concerned about the crops. He's concerned about the weather, all of those things. It weighs heavy on your mind. And now, as I record this, we are concerned about tariffs. Trade wars go hand in hand. We're concerned about low commodity prices, high interest, high land price, high inputs. There are a lot of concerns. So, farm founder dad, what can he be concerned about? The day to day. He's stressed. He doesn't want to talk about it. Number two, this is also what he loves to do, his livelihood. And nobody really wants to face that decision of having to leave what they do, right? If you're a farmer and you manage to stick with it through the highs and the lows, the good years, the bad years, if you manage to stick with it mentally, physically, and financially, you obviously love it. You're good at what you do and you don't want to leave it. So naturally, farm founder dad may not want to retire because he doesn't want to retire. And as Terry Becker mentioned in one of the episodes we did together, it is one thing talking about it as a person that's not going through it. But when you are the one, as Terry mentioned, when you're the one looking retirement in the eyes, it's different. You're dealing with a lot of different emotions, right? You're dealing with age and retirement and all those things and having to leave what you do. What does the future look like? A lot of farmers are all in on the farm. They don't have hobbies. They don't do other stuff. What are they going to do? Dad's concerned. Mom's concerned. She wants to start the conversation, but maybe she doesn't want to cause friction. Mom is concerned about keeping harmony among the children. So very often what I hear and what a lot of my guests have said, it's mom that is concerned and mom that will push the conversation because it has to be dealt with and it might not be getting dealt with. And we don't want the elephant to stay in the room. So Heather Venenge, pardon me, in her book, that I have on the website, and I've done a book review. She talks about the fact that very often she sees that 70% of the time it's mom that takes the bull by the horns and starts the conversation. So the next generation, if they are the farm child, this is important. This is their future. This is their livelihood, right? And they want to bring it up, but there's the parent-child roles. They don't want to seem greedy. They don't want to seem like they are assuming inheritance. They don't want to step on toes. They don't want to make their parents upset. They don't know what to say, how to ask. So why does the conversation not get started? There's a lot of different reasons. And if any of those struck a chord, you're not alone. That is a lot of the farming operation. Everybody in the farm family, including in-laws and non-farming children, all have their thoughts, concerns, feelings, and thoughts going through their mind, right? So not starting the conversation is the top mistake that people make. As I said, we all have our concerns on the farm. And it's easy to want to avoid confrontation and conflict, so we don't start the conversation. But at the end of the day, is the elephant in the room any more comfortable than starting the conversation and risking a little bit of friction and conflict or uncharted territories? So, not starting the conversation. Mistake number one. Number two, procrastination. The conversation is started, it's acknowledged, and then you put it off. Because at the beginning of this episode, I listed all the variety and probably just a few of the concerns that farm founders face, right? So it's easy to say, okay, we're going into harvest. Oh, we're going into calving. It's haying, it's harvesting, it's seeding, it's tariff wars, it's all these things. It's easy to put it off. And we all know how fast time goes, right? My goodness, we're the end of March as I air this, and it feels like 2025 just got started. So then we're into seeding, and then it's going to be busy summer, and then busy fall and winter, and a year slips by, 5 years slip by, and the conversation's not had, and the farm family and farm family business is affected. Number two, procrastination, not taking inventory. So many of our guests, especially Clint Fisher in the episode that I did with him, said the number one starting point as a farm founder to starting your transition planning is taking inventory of what you have. Makes sense. But you know what? Sometimes we forget all the assets that we have. Or he mentioned you forget that that quarter of land that you're thinking of giving to the non-farming child is also in great Aunt Gretna's name as well. Well, you don't own that. You can't sign that over. So what he recommends is taking inventory of all the farming and non-farming assets. And to me, one thing I started doing very early in my business career, it was kind of like a money mindset, money management, was creating a net worth statement. And whether you're the farm founder or the Gen 2 or just a person working a job, having a net worth statement as a person, as a couple, as a business is something I totally recommend because our financial management personally as a couple and as a farm operation is so important. And if you have a net worth statement, what that simply is, you list all your assets on the top, okay, and then what they're worth. And then at the bottom, you list all your liabilities and what you owe. And then at the bottom, you get a number, which is your net worth statement number, your net worth number. And the great thing is, it's a great way to track your progress as a farm and as a person, as a couple. So on the personal aspect, if let's say you're Gen 2 and you don't have a lot of assets, it's a great way to track your income, farming, non-farming. It's a great way to track your debts, whether that's consumer spending or farm-related spending. It is one of the best financial tools right behind a budget. For me, it's a net worth statement because it's a great way to look year to year to see your financial progress. Are we growing our net worth or are we getting further in debt? And long before I was even in business, I created a personal net worth statement to track my progress because heck, if you're spending on a credit card and you're going backwards, it's great to have a snapshot at least every year, create a new version of the statement, and then you know if you're going in the right direction or backwards, and then you adjust accordingly. So a net worth statement is a best place to start if you are looking at starting that transition planning conversation. What do y'all owe? What do y'all own? Land, your machinery, your animals, any off-farm investments, any RSPs from non-farm income, all of that kind of stuff. So not starting the conversation, procrastination, not taking inventory, and assumptions. Assumptions and making decisions on incorrect information is number 4. Do you know the tax laws, the inheritance laws, whether you're personal structure or a corporation? Find that out because a lot of people start assuming this is what they're going to do for their transition plan, and they don't actually have the correct tax laws. Reach out to somebody, an accountant that knows, find that information, and make sure as you're creating your net worth statement and starting to think about things, you know the tax implications. Number 5, having your estate and finances organized. So, of course, a will. A lot of us don't even have wills, and that is probably number 1. What happens if something happens to you? What happens if something happens to both of you in the couple? So, your will, your estate plan, having your finances organized, a budget, a net worth. And one thing that I actually like doing is a farm business binder. And it comes from an idea that I got from another lady about an I love you list. Have everything listed in a binder, whether you're a couple that works together on the farm business, you can have that binder as your main source of business information. If you need to know anything, go to that binder. Or if you're a farm founder, that you're the sole operator and your spouse doesn't really participate in the business, even more important, what happens if something happens to you? Do they know the bank accounts? Do they know the insurance policies? Do they know a copy of the will? Do they know dot, dot, dot? Anything important to the operation of your farm business should go in there. Have different tabs. Have your financial statements at the front, your bank accounts in another tab. You can even have contracts with suppliers. You can have contracts on different pieces of equipment that you owe money on in another tab. Have it as the farm business binder. One place, and then you go and update it every year. If something happens to you, they know where to find it. And if nothing else, you're just nice and organized, right? You can put your financials at the beginning of the binder every year once you get them from the accountant. So, number 5 is not being organized financially with wills, estates, finance. Number 6 mistake, study farm transition planning. And this one is for farm founders or Gen 2. Study like your future depends on it because it does. I am always floored by the number of people that are interested in taking over the farm family operation, but they don't spend an ounce of time or money learning about transition planning. My goodness, and this goes to the financial world. A lot of people will spend more time researching and planning their next vacation than they do researching and planning their future. And you may go, well, it's not in my control, Tracy. We're Gen 2. The parents have the control, and there's all these things. But here is the thing. Somebody needs to know what's going on, and somebody might need to start the conversation. If you want to take over the farm family operation, why not learn and study like your future depends on it? If nothing else, if you're Gen 2 and you're frustrated by the lack of progress, studying will give you some knowledge on the next steps, things maybe you can do on your own, and it will give you a feeling of empowerment, not the feeling of chasing yourself in circles, not getting anywhere on transition planning. So number 6, study transition planning like your future depends on it, because it does. Number 7, fair and equal. The biggest transition planning mistakes. This one is a loaded topic, and I've done several episodes lately. It's important, and you know what? The opinions are all over the map. Some are fair and equal, fair and equal, fair and equal. Others say fair is not necessarily equal. And then there are different advisors that have different ways of approaching this subject. So, like I said right before, study transition planning, study the topic of fair and equal. If you're a farm founder, speak to somebody. read articles on fair and equal, because some transition planners will say create a corporation and give all the kids shares. And then you'll talk to the next one and they'll say that might not be the best thing to do if only one child cares about the farm and the other are off farm and have no involvement. That might be setting them up for failure. So have a look, have a read. I have some books. I'll talk about that at the end that I'm going to recommend. But fair and equal seems to be the elephant in the room and what holds farm founders up. You know what? There's lots of information. Talk to several advisors, get their opinion. Podcasts, YouTube, books, fair and equal. And one of the things that I want to touch on fair and equal is it seems that people are concerned that the pendulum is swinging all the way from one child gets it all to fair and equal, so fair and equal that we are going to kill the family farm. Because if you divide the pie, there's no longer enough farm to farm anymore. So that is food for thought, something I've heard. And I think there's a few people out there that the pendulum is swinging too far. So how do you balance fair and equal and take care of the farm, the farming child, and the non-farming children? Number 8, when to bring in the family on this discussion. So I'm going to weigh in here because there are different schools of thought on this. So in one transition planning book, you're going to read that you should sit down and ask all your kids what they want right away before you've even started. Just open the conversation. And then the next person says, heck no, don't do that. So here's the thing. And my concern, I have a sales background, a business background, and I'll shed a light on that one and what concerns me. If you are a farm founder, be very careful how you approach this, because think about this. In business, in sales, in negotiation, and it's not negotiation, but there is some really strong wisdom in this to make sure that you avoid a big family explosion. In negotiations, let's just call it that, highly stressed situations, you are taught to never go in without a plan, because when you just open it up and say, what do you think? You really just lose control of the conversation and you can end up causing more harm than good. You may go in saying that you want to talk to your kids about fair and equal and make it clear, and that's beautiful. But the problem is you cannot necessarily control what's going to happen in that conversation. And not only that, when everybody's there, some kids may just say something because it's the right thing to say, and that's not how they feel necessarily. So I've heard advisors say, bring in the kids and talk to them. And then I've heard advisors say, don't do that. Make sure as farm founders, you do your research, talk to your advisors, get a good plan. At the end of the day, you know who the farming kids are, you know who the non-farming kids are. You've done your inventory of assets. You kind of have a good plan. You've studied, you've talked to somebody. Then go to the kids and then present it and get opinions at that point. But I kind of go along with the train of thought. Don't open up a conversation that you don't necessarily know the outcome for or how to handle it, right? Because it can just cause an explosion and then irreparable damage. So that's different things that I've heard, and I wanted to weigh in a little bit on that based on my business background and psychology and dealing with people, right? Number 9, build a team of qualified professionals. So all of those things leading up to number 9. I've heard advisors say, don't necessarily just go to your local lawyer or local accountant. One, do they know the laws and rules with farm taxation and law? Transition planning, do they know your big picture of your farm family, what you want to happen and kind of how you want it to go? A lot of the advisors I speak to, obviously, are farm transition people that specialize. Of course, they highly recommend that you speak to somebody that knows all the aspects, or find somebody that is a coach that knows all the people that you need to bring in and all the moves you need to make. And I know we're all seeing dollar signs, and yes, that's a big reason for procrastination. I think I forgot that one on the last episode. 5 reasons that cause farm founders to stall. Let's make it 6, the cost, because we know we're going to have to pay professionals. But at the end of the day, if you care about the farm, if you care about the farming child and the non-farming children and family harmony, it is worth spending a bit of money, because at the end of the day, if you don't plan right, it's going to end up in an estate battle, and then the farm will likely be lost, won't it? That's the nightmare story we always hear. So isn't it wise to research, learn, have a good idea before you talk to any professional? Because then you can go, wait a minute, that doesn't sound right. I don't think this one really knows farm transition, farm succession. Study, and then find a person you can talk to that knows all the different moves and players needed that can help you reach your end goal. There are not enough farm transition coaches, but there are more and more. And if you go to farmmarketer.com, impact farming, find the episodes, or just go to our YouTube, you can go to the transition planning playlist, and then you can sort through, and there's some individuals there. And that list is by no means all encompassing. So, but it's a good starting point for you. So make sure to build a team of qualified professionals. And one more note on that. When it comes to our crops, we'd hire agrologists and different specialists. We use different tech, the best machinery. If we want to protect our biggest 2 assets, our biggest 2 investments in life, the farm and our family, wouldn't it make sense to spend a little bit of money now, sooner, to avoid conflict and estate battles? We've seen it all, right? You who you're watching this, you're interested. I'm sure this is near and dear to your heart. We've all heard of different farm families in the community that are in big family battles, estate battles, that the family falls apart, the farm goes up for auction. We don't want that to happen. The farm family is a beautiful thing. The family farm is a beautiful and sacred thing. We want more generations to continue on our family farms. And the best way to do that is to start the transition planning conversation, research, building our team, right? Let's make sure we avoid the loss down here by dealing with it up here. And then number 10 is the biggest mistake is lack of clear communication. When we go through all those other ones and then we research and we find a team and we kind of have our plan, bringing in the family to talk to them about it is the next step. So it's clear, and avoid any elephants in the room, any resentments, all of those crazy farm family dynamics, right? It's hard to talk about this, to be honest, because it is quite raw and personal for people. We've all seen this. You may have been through it. And how many of our farming family have been part of that in previous generations? So my whole goal with this show is to prevent family from fighting and prevent the family farm from being lost, right? The family farm is such a beautiful thing. And once we lose it, for whatever reason, it's gone. And if we lose it because we don't plan the estate and plan the succession plan correctly, and the farm gets sold, chances are little Henry or little Susie that was next, the grandchild, and she wanted to farm or he wanted to farm, chances are they're not getting that back, because it's hard to buy a farm from the prices it is now, right? So to me, why I focus on transition planning is it's important. Every family farm needs to transition. It's whether we just do it proactively or it transitions after death, and it's not necessarily what we would have hoped. So, those are the top 10 transition planning mistakes that I have garnered from all our beautiful and amazing guests that come on the show that literally pour their life force into helping farm families transition succession plan. I find actually with that terminology in the States, succession planning still seems to be the common word. And in Canada, we seem to move more to transition planning. I don't know if you've noticed that, but I kind of bounce back and forth between the two of them. So, one last thing I wanted to share with you, and it comes back to studying transition planning like your future depends on it, because it does. I'm back. So, in the last episode, I shared with you that there are some really great books. I know Elaine and Jolene and a few of them have had books for quite some time and they've been on the market, but I have finally found, and this is by no means all encompassing, I'll give you a list that has more. I am finding there are more and more books that are available on farm transition planning, which makes sense. Back in the day, it used to be super expensive and super rare to publish a book. Now, with self-publishing and the internet and communication platforms, it's so much easier for professionals to put their work out in the form of a book. So that's really exciting. And if you go to our YouTube channel, you'll notice there is a playlist called Book Reviews. And I have interviewed a few authors already about their books, and I'm trying to get through all of them. And this is not all of them, but hold on, there's more. I actually put together a farm transition planning reading list. And this, again, I will state is not all encompassing because there are so many people out there, so many resources that I can't possibly list it all. So this is about my third round of updates. I created this last fall for the Future of Farming conference that I was at in Prince Edward Island, where I recorded a live episode of the Impact Farming Show with a panel to share their farm transition story. I didn't want the audience to leave empty-handed, so I created an ebook that you can get for free if you go to farmmarketer.com and then go to the Impact Farming tab and then down to the bottom, and it says free resources. Enter your name, email address. Of course, we protect your email and cherish it. We won't spam you. You can download this. And at the front is books that I have read. There's a few I haven't, but I know they're highly recommended. And then there's a few of our guests I've listed, mainly most of the Canadian ones for now. And Farm Credit Canada, Farm Management Canada, some of the farm family coaches and authors. I don't have everybody in here yet, but I've tried to list some resources and articles and websites that I've had other people recommend as well. So check this out. We're going to be updating. I have to go through and do another round of updates and get all our guests in here, but if you don't want to miss any of our guests and the segments, again, go to YouTube, Impact Farming Show by Farm Marketer, and then find the transition planning playlist, and you'll find all our guests that have come on and done transition planning episodes. That is the top 10 transition planning mistakes that I have gathered together. So, how many are you making on your farm? Don't answer. Or if you're brave, put it in the notes, shoot me a message. You don't have to answer that because obviously a lot of us are making many of those mistakes, right? This is a big topic. It's overwhelming. There are so many parties, so many competing concerns and priorities that it's not an easy process, right? And it's near and dear to our heart, the family farm, the founders, Gen 2, the non-farming children that grew up on the farm, that love the farm. The family farm is a beautiful thing, and that is my goal, is to help you protect your family farm by helping us all be proactive on our transition and succession planning. So if you enjoyed this episode, like it, subscribe to the YouTube channel, rate and review on podcasts, and most importantly, we have the Impact Farming Insider email list. You can go to the website, same as I just said, and then enter to become an insider, and then you're going to get one email a week with our new episodes. So I would love to have you along on the journey. If this has been helpful, again, if you're on YouTube, I'd love to hear from you. Even if it's a, hey, Tracy, loving it, here's my concerns. I would absolutely love to hear what's on your mind. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you on next week's episode. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Impact Farming. For more great episodes and articles designed to help you manage and grow your farming operation, head on over to farmmarketer.com. Don't forget to sign up while you're there. We will see you on the next episode.